Yeah, I mean, that is unfortunate, I suppose. But never mind. Dad's still not back for cigarettes. We just got to go. Hello and welcome to Game of Nodes, a weekly podcast on the Cosmos from independent validator teams. And as you might have identified, Dad is still not back with those cigarettes. We're still very upset. We were waiting. Where have we been since last week? Sat in these chairs. Clothes haven't changed. Maybe. And yeah, we also have friend of the show, Sporthy, fully doxed, duly foxed. No, I mean, to be fair, I guess your handle online is usually Spoo or Spoo Bar, which is at least half of the way there anyway. So
I think my Twitter has my full name, my first name.
I guess you need to put a lot of things together. Well, this is the thing, isn't it? I guess you just knowing somebody's like everybody knows Jake from Core One, right? They know his name, but it's well, actually, I guess yeah, no, you it is very very easy if you know somebody's full name and surname. That's the key, I guess. So as long as you keep one of those things, I guess yeah. Shortly, case in point, you're like very not anon and yet a man of mystery.
Well, here's the funny thing, though. I recently had a name change go through, so I'm kind of anonymous again.
Wait. So wait, what? You've changed your name IRL?
Yeah. I got married. Neither of us wanted our last name, so we were like, let's just go something different.
Oh my god, Dad's back. Did you get those cigarettes?
Back with the cigarettes. I am.
The cigarettes
and gin.
I was so surprised. I literally knocked my mic stand over.
The Leopolds from Denver, Colorado.
I was just about to ask about that. That stuff's really good.
Is it?
Noel and I had some, I think, when he was on. No, we had a whiskey then, but we had some when he was over.
I opened that Laws like I forget which one we bought. We bought like some. You and I bought the same one, right? It was some
I
reserve.
Bought two.
Oh, that's right. You bought super fancy. I bought some reserve one there, and I had a little bit of that, and I was like, oh boy.
Yeah,
that thing was like, woo, baby.
Right. Okay. Eric's back.
All right.
Happy days. Null has gone walkabout. He's in the area of Australia known as Belonga Null, and so he's not joining this week. And I see. Yeah. So basically, Spoo, we're not going to. We've already talked to you, which is better than we mostly do for like an entire hour. We actually have not only a developer but a fellow validator on the show, so probably somebody who's more on the pulse of what's actually going on in the cosmos as well than us fucking dipshits.
Wait, hold on. We got Sporthy. You run a validator? Which validator do you run? I don't think I realized that.
On Stargaze, I run the Cosmos Ladies.
Oh, never mind. I did know that. Okay.
So, due to a scheduling cock-up by our Australian contingent, Spoo was going to come on International Women's Day, I believe, to talk about the Cosmos Ladies, and and also obviously, so I suppose obviously maybe not obvious to listeners of the show, but Sporty's also worked as a core kind of SDK dev. Wait, hang on, am I allowed to talk about this? Do you have like, are you allowed to talk about your job, right, or your old job?
Yeah.
Because I suddenly realized like I don't really know if anybody has like agreement, but anyway, whatever. So work for ICF and stuff like that. So also knows a lot about
and not at ICF, at Tandem and Ignite.
Ignite. Yeah, and so really kind of so how long have you actually been working in Cosmos in total? I mean, despite having like known you on and off for various things for quite a while, I've actually never asked that question.
I guess in total 2.5 years, but I am counting like parts where I was working on Cosmos but not as professionally. So professionally I guess it's 2 years, but so amateurly 1 or 2.5.
So kind of like an OG, or like relatively OG. I mean, I guess what was OG? How far back do you have to go to be a legit OG?
I think there's like, the 2018 batch with Sunny and all at Tendermint,
Okay, so like pre App Chain Winter OG, post Sunny and Co OG, one of just maybe not OG but a G. Is that allowed?
Yeah.
I don't know. So and what are you mainly working on these days, if you can talk about it, other than the validation stuff, which we'll kind of get onto?
So predominantly, I'm working at PhyLabs on Archway and adjacent stuff. And also, I contribute some stuff to Stargaze as well.
Okay, nice. So that usurpers like Stargaze.
I'm what? Is there a what's the end?
I
of
don't
that
know. You
sentence?
always do this like little involuntary nod when Stargaze Max mentioned. You just like,
I do like Stargaze. Yeah.
mhm,
Yep.
Stargaze.
Yep.
Yes,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
also do things at Stargaze. Yes, we do.
Yes.
Yeah, Stargaze.
Big fan.
Very good.
Yes.
So hey, so I totally missed that mint the other week as well. Did you guys all get it? Were you
You mean the
after
the filter? Yeah.
Yeah. Was it
I got a few.
Was it good?
It was it
Sold
was
out immediately.
It did
What
go
was
fast.
the- what
Yeah,
was-
it was nuts.
What was the price on those?
I don't remember. Well, what they did.
1,600.
That sounds right.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a they whitelisted, what was it?
30
was-
some odd 100.
It was one per every, if you held a bad kid, you had one whitelisted, right? It was 1-to-1, wasn't it? I think it was.
I don't think it was.
I thought it was, because I think there was 3,000 or 3,600 bad kids originally, and there's 10,000 of after the filter. And I think everyone who held an original bad kid could whitelist. Was
There were more
whitelisted one.
There were more bad kids than that one. There 10,000.
No, it's only no. That's what I thought too. Because I was like, how many are left after this? I can go look real quick.
Got it.
And then there were yeah, I could take a look, see how many bad kids there are. Oh, you're right, there are 10,000. What the hell, dude?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
what are you talking
wait,
about then?
No, wait, that's bit kids. I'm looking at the wrong one. My bad. Looking at the wrong one.
But aren't
Well-
bit kids also 1-to-1 with bad kids?
Yeah, there are.
Yeah.
There's 10,000 there too.
So
Well, there's 9,996 because 4 people burned them.
did we? Oh no, we burned.
No,
we
we
burned
didn't.
a
We
bit
didn't.
kinda on the
Yeah.
show, didn't we? You don't burn a
Yeah.
bad kid. That's a blue chip.
That's a blue chip.
You can't just burn that shit.
I thought it was 1-to-1. Maybe it wasn't, but anyway, there was a whitelist that was for I think a few hours beforehand, and then it opened up. And I think they had then I think they all went in. I don't remember. I posted some stats on Twitter, but they all went like within 10-15 minutes or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was something like that.
So
And then they opened up the market. They were thinking it was going to mint for like a few days or something like that. They're going to open the marketplace like a week later. They ended up opening up the marketplace, I think 6 or 7 hours after the mint was done, or after the mint started.
what did you do? I mean, I guess you guys probably took the hit on obviously the traffic and stuff for that. What did it look like?
I'll link a little tweet I had, but it was something along the lines of, shoot, I'll find it. But it was a pretty significant jump. Real quick, let me. I'll find it.
Was it intense? Intense degeneracy, or was it like mid-level degeneracy, or?
No, it was pretty intense. It was to the point where I was bit like we were prepped on it. Like we knew it was coming, and so I was like watching dashboard and see what the hell's going on. And during the mint, I had no issues in terms of transactions. I was just minting the ones I was going through. I was just letting it go. I did have one time out, and I was like, oh shit, what the hell's this? But I think at that point, I thought, at least what I was pulling, there was something like 20,000 transactions in the mempool, or 20 or 30,000. So that's people just hitting it over and over and over. And I don't even know what. But the maximum per block was only like 20 or 30 a block, I thought, or maybe 30 or 40 a block. We can go back and look and see what the blocks were like. So I assume that's the contract running, and then it was trying to figure out who's first in there and a bunch of other types of shit in there. And a lot of those transactions I assume failed because they were already minting on a number that was already in process. Maybe is that how that works?
I actually, to be fair, don't know how the sequential mint works, because you can do it a whole bunch of ways. Like if it's just a pure increment, it's submit. Yeah, no, it submits to the mempool, and then the one that succeeds gets it, and then the others will fail, right? Because it's just an atomic. It's just an atomic right.
I don't know if it's, but is it figuring out which one is the next one available, and so therefore it's doing a transaction for that number, or it's just say, hey, run the contract, whatever's next, give me the next one.
Well, I think it will try and write it, won't it? Like the simplest way it would do it in CosmWasm is you try and write the key to the key value store, but if it already exists, it obviously will just error for something like an NFT.
So and then the request. So there's requests on the. So there's a number of requests per second. So we peaked at around 18,000 requests a second. So 18,000 requests means people are on the site. They're hitting the button. They are, going to the marketplace, whatever that is. It turns into a bunch of requests, right? Because the site is actually really well architected and it's cached a lot, but it's still hitting RPC and API a lot for items. So it hit 18,000 requests per second. We haven't had that, or it hasn't been that high in a long time. Like that, I think that I remember maybe Bad Kids or something before that was maybe 12 or 13,000. I misspoke. There's 3,000 transactions in the mempool that was sustained for like a few minutes. So I don't even know how that works, dude, but that's the numbers that I have coming out of the nodes. And then
were they like bots or something?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe that what it is. And it's just fucking dumping transactions in or something. And then on Cloudflare, there was 1,500 unique visitors a minute, which is pretty decent, actually. 1,500. I mean, you can figure who's in the mint and everything else like that. And Germany and the US accounted for 70% of traffic. There was a ton of German traffic and a ton of US traffic and everything else. And after that, it was like Finland and a couple other ones that were much lower down. Actually, have a graph in this tweet thread as well.
So what you're saying is Max Juno minted them all?
Basically. Probably, yeah, right, exactly. Yeah,
just Max Juno was running a bot in Germany,
and Simon, right? Yeah, it's all, exactly.
Simon Confio.
It's exactly right. That's exactly right.
I'm pretty sure Simon actually listens to the podcast after.
So I know that's the reason I mentioned him. Like, so yeah,
I did not buy any of those NFTs.
Hong Kong, Great Britain, Russia, France, Japan, Poland, Austria, Italy, Canada. So but there was a lot of US centric type of things, right? But yeah, it was humming there for, I don't know, maybe only like 10 minutes or something like that. But by that point, the mint was gone. It was done. Like that. So it was, then everything kind of calmed down.
Yeah. So
it was fun. I want obviously Stargaze to be successful. I like when these type of things come up because it's a good chance to like see what is going to fail and why. Like I don't think this was necessarily an infrastructure issue with like the number of transactions and like the pauses. I think like the nodes just could not get enough. I don't know how that I don't know how that contract structure works, but it seems like there's too many requests on that contract for this one specific contract for this set, and it couldn't fulfill it for some reason.
Well, maybe would it not be gas that's the limit potentially?
Because that's what I thought too. I thought it'd be gas per block, but I thought that was really high, wasn't it? I thought that was like, I know it's config per chain, but
don't know what it's set to on Stargaze. But like you do, the complexity of the transaction has a pretty big impact on its ability to fit in the. You know what? Spoo would probably know this better than any of us. Like,
right?
Do you happen to know anything about the way the Stargaze NFT mint contracts work? And I think the code's open source, so I really should just read it and look at it. But you
have some homework.
We can do a code review.
I'm a contract developer, so no idea.
We can do a code review on the show, live on the show. Let's try and work out just how much gas roughly it might use and what the bottleneck is here. No, that would probably not be a good use of time.
I don't see a mass gas parameter on MintScan. I was hoping it might be in there.
Yeah, so there's definitely a parameter. Ooh, ping.pub might have it.
Oh yeah. They show everything, right?
Yeah. So we also had a follow up from so you missed out, Usurper. We were trying to work. Was this last week? We were trying to work out what Babylon is.
Yeah, we were talking about. I listened to the show. It was pretty good. I encourage everyone who's listening now to go back and listen.
And in real time, we sort of managed to roughly figure out what Babylon was doing. We had a viewer follow-up question sort of saying, well, hang on a minute, why not just do Babylon with Cosmos chains?
Wasn't that me?
Was that you? Was that literally
I was the viewer, I think.
You were the viewer. Okay, well, so I've obviously massively inflated our viewing figures in my head.
Can't make me. What the hell? Now I'm both the viewer and the
proof
responder.
Yeah. So is proof of work the thing that is fully required there? Is that what, or is it the inherent or the high value of Bitcoin itself? Like which is the securing? What's the thing that's doing? Because I'm guessing this is all about, using the correct word here, kind of exogenously securing outside of, in terms of economic security. Obviously, the block thing is separate, and Rama came on and schooled us all like children on why that
He did.
Was the case. So
while taking care of his own children, he had a lot of children.
I get the writing part, like you need to write it, and then that's an external state essentially.
Yeah,
why could that not be another Cosmos chain?
Is it writing to Bitcoin, or is it taking the Bitcoin hash and embedding it into a block? So therefore, do you
get a memo on Bitcoin? I think you do, don't you?
I don't know. Oh, it could be that too. Maybe that's it.
You do. I think that Bitcoin has a specific parameter that you can add to it, because I did some looking into it a bit. And I imagine that's part of the reason why it's necessary, and it's not, implemented on Ethereum or something. It has to do with that field, that specific field that you can use.
But I don't understand how that works either. But my understanding of when you guys talked about it with Rama was that you're basically tying the state of the Bitcoin into the Babylon. You're basically tying that state into this Cosmos chain state, right? So therefore, it's extremely difficult or impossible to be able to change this chain state because it's tied to a specific hash that's coming from something that's off chain, right? Or it's coming from Bitcoin or something else like that. That's kind of the way I understood it. Like there's no actual economic. I mean, the economic piece of it is that you can't change that state of both of these chains to try to change the state of a chain that uses Babylon, right? And so, is that right? That's kind of what I heard from it. Like,
yeah. So the economic security, I think, is just knock on in that you assume that the integrity of Bitcoin is
correct,
solid,
right?
So which is why you couldn't use a second. I assume why you couldn't use a second tier proof of work chain, because the whole point is that it has to be the high value one. But I could be wrong about that.
I mean,
I still say Monero should be the one.
Consensus reason, because Bitcoin, the longer you go, the more final the block is, which is kind of opposite to the way proof of stake, where you get fast finality, but over time you could have long range attacks, but you can't have that in proof of work.
Oh, that's interesting. Maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, well, because the longest chain, but the longest chain wins thing, you can subvert that, can't you? So you could have a situation where, based on the number of confirmations, if you, depending on how the Bitcoin, I could be wrong about this, but this is my naive understanding of the Bitcoin mining. Bearing in mind, I haven't run a proof of work miner for Jesus Christ, maybe over 10 years. Anyway, isn't it the case, and I'm directing this mainly at Spoo and Chelsea, because you guys definitely know better than me, because of the longest chain wins thing, like Spoo just said, the more confirmations you have of the chain being the longest, then the more likely that is to be correct. But you can do the thing where there is, I guess no, actually no, I'm talking shit, because the attack I'm thinking of, where you build a chain in private and then you force the new chain to be higher, requires voting power, doesn't it? So actually, that's a 51% attack, and actually you can assume that what Spoo said is right, which is that beyond the more confirmations you get, the more likely that, it's very unlikely that state's going to be rewritten, right? But it does make you think, if there was a 51% attack on Bitcoin, you could end up, I mean, the attacker would have to move incredibly fast. They'd have to notice that was the case on Bitcoin and then attack you over here.
Right.
I mean, if you attack Bitcoin, I don't think you'll care about some Cosmos chain.
No shit, right? Yeah, exactly.
Wait, what are you saying, Spoo? What are you saying? Surely that would be the news. People would be like, 51% attack on Bitcoin. But also, more importantly,
we want to attack Juno. Okay, but
what are the implications?
Let's go attack Bitcoin first. Yeah, let's go attack Bitcoin first. But really, our goal is Juno here. We really want to go
A
after Juno.
real goal.
A
A
real
bunch
goal.
of Cosmos coins trading at or around $1. Which, to be fair, Stargaze was trading at or around $1.
Aye.
Aye.
Did it?
But to the
it hit
point-
that high, really?
We talked about this before. I think somebody said it was 81 cents. I think Null said it was 80 cents. I always thought it was like 46, but yeah.
I thought the high was like 50 cents max.
That's what I thought too. But I think I looked back at CoinGecko.
CoinGecko says 84 cents is what it hit.
Yeah,
Wow,
that must have been a
really?
really short. That must have been a real short spike because I don't really remember it saying.
Maybe that was when, because the chain launched, and I think it was listed on CoinGecko before the Osmosis liquidity pool started. So maybe that was when it was trying to converge. You know, the price was trying to the price. What's it called? I'm tired. Price discovery. When price discovery was happening.
Yeah,
You know, this is price discovery. That's what that means.
But the waving of the hand. But the idea that I understand where Babylon. I understand that need. It seems to be to me a bit overhyped. It doesn't seem to be that large of a concern that it needs all this hype around it. And also, my question was, why couldn't you do the same idea with other proof of stake chains within the Cosmos? And if you could do it if you can IBC that structure, whatever transaction that is, why couldn't you do that in a mesh system with every chain in the Cosmos that is IBC'd? And so basically you have a shared security structure of having all these different block hashes or whatever the hell they're doing somehow contained in that type of thing. Where does it need to be proof of work, and does it need to be Bitcoin at 14 minutes a block, or could you do it in some other way? And it sounds like a much cheaper way. That was my question.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like we can, and that's kind of what mesh security is fundamentally, right? Which, to that end, we should also get someone from Stridon, like Riley, to explain to us as validators if we are still going to be validators on Stride in like 2 weeks. But that's neither here nor there.
I still don't know the answer to that question.
Well, because of ICS?
Yeah.
And they're doing like governators or something like that.
That's right. Yeah, we're going to be governators. But does that mean we turn off our nodes? I don't know.
Is that what it is? Or I'm a governor?
Something like that.
I don't want to be a governor.
Is known to love governance, right? Big fan of being the governator.
I don't want to be a governor.
I don't want to be a
governor.
Ben
You
Davis
don't make blocks.
You don't make blocks, which sounds sounds a little bit I am the one who knocks, actually. More of a more of an instruction. You don't make blocks.
So
who does make
I make
blocks?
Stride for doing nothing.
Blocks.
Yeah, so 15% of Stride's income is going back to ICS validators. So we're going to make 85% of the inflation or whatever, or of income of fees as governators. Does that make sense?
But wait, are we making blocks, but they're receiving the 15% because there's a security piece of it? Or they're making blocks, they're running it for 15%, because why the fuck would they do that?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah. All right.
This is like the other day I was reading a paper and I was reading it and going like, I just don't understand how validators make money in this model. This is madness. Like, why would you possibly want to do this? And then I like read on to the next section. It was like, because it was about essentially stables, and it was like, oh, banks are running it. That's why. Like, it's not like degenerates. They're like, when they say decentralized, they mean lots of banks in lots of jurisdictions. They don't mean like random degenerates in their basement like us. And I was like, oh, okay. The economic incentive is those guys are already banks and they're issuing actual currency. So that's why that would work.
Ben says Adam Vals make the blocks. Dylan says Stride governators make 85% of the rewards. I don't know. I'm kind of turning this ship around on this ICS thing now.
I'm going to message Riley right now and see if he wants to join in.
If that's the case. Chuck Norris broadcast transactions to the chain with a stare. That's right. Yeah.
That's actually correct.
Yeah, we should. That's pretty interesting, actually. I don't know. And that's coming pretty soon, right? Isn't it next few months or something? Or sooner?
Maybe even sooner than that.
Yeah.
So, and in kind of Master and Commander news or related news,
Yes.
Another paper that I came across but didn't understand because it had too much maths in it, but conceptually was quite fun. Was a paper called "Simple Rigs Hold Fast," which was about object states and invariants, and it. The reason this is funny, right, is because when people have to define like an ontology, like to express a new idea, the ontology they used was sailing and rigging for essentially like invariants, I guess, in a kind of low trust system. And they the best bit is so they define a rig as a cryptographic data structure that provides integrity at a distance, and then blah 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 blah, and then it says we define the rig property of holding fast, which is a strong form of causal connection between a blah 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 blah. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff, which is all rigging metaphors. But as you may recall, holding fast is a prominent feature of the crew in Master and Commander. So I chuckled quite a lot. And then I got to the next page, and there was a bunch of maths, and I was like, "Well, this is not for the likes of me. I don't understand what the fuck this means." But nice to see holding fast getting its due respect in the academic milieu.
So you put the book down, turn on Master Commander.
Yeah, I was just like, this
Fuck this.
academic shit ain't for me. Click the TV on.
Play.
Watch the title sequence of Master and Commander. HMS Surprise, whatever it is, 26 guns, 300 souls, South Atlantic. Her goal: find French privateers, take them, burn them. What is it? Destroy them, burn them, sink them, burn them, or take them a prize.
Are you reading the script from memory?
Yeah, I think that's the title card, isn't it? From
You're asking the wrong people.
And then just as we got past the title card, I heard the sound of a baby pooping, and that was the end of my Master and Commander watching experience for the day. So speaking of other things, drill tweet of the week. Are you ready? Oh, dining. I don't think I could pronounce. Okay, so chef Monsignor leaving this bad spelling. This is I'm trying to phonetically spell the bad spelling. So chef Monsignor leaving the tails on the shrimp is good. It is très bien. Me, I'm going to nuke you with live ammo. I'm the guy from The Crow. That's the tweet.
That's amazing.
Magic. It's inspiring.
It's magic.
The direction of my life.
I feel
changed.
like that I am going to nuke you with live ammo. I am the guy from The Crow is something I actually would say in anger.
You really should you gotta pre-stage those. Are you just putting a finger in the book and just reading whatever comes up?
Yeah, I mean, really, I should actually get the just.
You should.
Yeah. But then as well, I mean, if I I don't know how I'd find the tweet, the original. I guess I could just clip out the book.
Yeah, or you can put a piece of paper in there.
You should get it from Noise Network.
That's a really good idea.
We can make a drill bot, couldn't we?
We could make a drill bot.
Now that would be. We just need a corpus of drill tweets. The problem is, Twitter has fucking turned off their API, haven't they? Basically, unless you pay them a shitload of money. So
no, there's a website. That's what I use. That's what I use to use my governance votes comments.
Well,
there's a website you can click that will just randomly give you a drill tweet. Like you hit a button and it puts it.
What you're saying is we don't need noise network.
No, well, I guess so. Yeah, I mean you could randomize a randomizer, but drill tweets need to be on chain, dude. Clearly,
I mean that seems very Web3 to randomize the randomizer. Just say you're using Web3.
Exactly.
We want to use noise because we want to use noise.
Exactly.
But actually, we could just use math.rand in JavaScript core.
Fuck that. You could cheat it. You might be purposely picking specific drill tweets over and over to further your agenda. We need true randomness.
Well, I mean, as we know, it's not actually possible for me to be random in the way that I'm doing it. That's actually not conceptually possible. I will have inherent biases that mean that I'm not actually randomly picking them. So our entire our methodology is unsound currently, and I think cryptography is the only thing that will save us,
Agreed.
and
Web-
possibly NFTs,
in Web3.
maybe DeFi as well. Like I mean, we
Throw
should.
it in. Throw it in
If
there.
there's some way we could add DeFi on top of drill, I think that would probably.
Ooh, we could
improve
mint a drill tweet each week and have
Mhm.
just like one tweet as an NFT each time. So it would be randomized, and we'd only find out what it was when we minted the NFT, when we instantiated the contract.
That would be cool.
And we
And it
could
would also be fun because it would be copyright infringement, but it would be copyright infringement of something that's already public.
right.
And I guess, yeah, you must. I've never read the Twitter terms of service. I assume that you own the copyright on tweets that you write, but I actually don't know that.
I doubt it. I doubt. There's no way they would allow that, right? It's got to be. It's got to be
Well,
public domain.
Well, but they
Yeah.
probably wouldn't want to have the rights over it because then they would be accountable for it. So maybe it might be you that owns the tweet.
I think you must own the copyright on your tweets because it depends on jurisdiction, right? Because at least here, I'm pretty sure you have to explicitly sign a waiver or like a copyright transfer to like remove your moral rights over something you've created. But then maybe you sign that when you sign up to Twitter and you just don't notice. But like it's it's like I write, so for certain pieces of content you have to sign that stuff over, and it is like a a form with
Mhm.
legal stuff on it, and you have to like go like for these situations, blah 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 blah. So that makes me think that maybe Twitter doesn't. But hey, if viewer knows, like holler. So in conclusion, we don't really know why not Babylon with Cosmos chains. We suspect something proof of work, right?
Yeah. That's that where we left it last week, right?
Handwave proof of work. Okay, cool. Hey, so
man.
you can probably tell I've been on a bit of a needing to do something productive while forcibly not being able to sleep for reasons that are obvious. I also read another paper which is quite dated now, but it was all about Libra, which obviously DM Libra.
Wait, hold on. Is
the
there going to be a
article-
white paper portion of this podcast? Because if there is, I'm all about it.
Yeah, so it was not the white paper itself, but this was an academic critique of the motives behind Facebook's original plan to build what is now obviously been open source and has become Aptos and Sui.
Hey, and layer 0 or 0 layer 0L.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and those guys.
They were in
and
mainnet first, you know.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
very good for them. But we don't validate them, so I don't care. Not that that's true of every chain, but it is in this case. But essentially, that it posited that the entire purpose of a proof of stake chain was to basically create a massive surveillance apparatus for Facebook, which is obviously completely correct, because like the essential. So the thing that's really interesting, right? Which obviously makes sense when you think about Penumbra, is the difference between how a lot of proof of stake works, where the way it models accounts versus UTXOs in proof of work. Because one of them's token based. This is a subtlety that really hadn't clicked till I read this critique, right? Which is that UTXOs is much easier to build privacy primitives around them. Whereas
What is that? UTXO?
What does it stand for? Unspent transaction output? Something like that. I'm getting a nod from the smartest person. So there we go. For those
I
listening,
mean, I recognize the second half. It is transaction output, but I don't know what the beginning part is.
I think it's unspent, isn't it? Because you, by working out, wait, this is when I have to do some thinking because I'm not a maths person. If you know the amount that remains unspent after the last set of transactions, you implicitly know all account balances, don't you? But you don't need to know you replay the state to get to now. It's like event sourcing. You replay the state to get to now, and then you know the state of the world at now, but you don't just like dump the state like a Cosmos chain or something and just see account coins balance, just as a mapping, right? It's fundamentally different. But the flip side of that is that obviously, because everything is deltas, like changes, it means that you can just obfuscate them if you want to. There's all sorts of things you can do. Very more simple. Well, I mean, whatever. Like, what's anything simple? But the inherent like ability to just reach in, dump the state of a thing, and just see all the balances is much conceptually easier for a non-UTXO blockchain, is my understanding. And that was the kind of fundamental, that was one of the main critiques of the design, and also kind of like, obviously this is what they're doing. How do you think Facebook make their money? They're not making their money because they're going to make loads of money like PayPal. They are trying to basically go, hey, regulators, don't worry, it's going to be all open because it's a blockchain. It's completely transparent, it's open. All our users have to put everything on it openly. Happy days. And then they can be like, yeah, we know exactly how much money you have in your account, and we can sell you car insurance or whatever. But obviously then, they did fall afoul of regulation, and that whole thing never ended up happening. But it's a really interesting paper. And if I had my notebook here, I'd tell you what it was. It was something like Libra, not about money. Is it about Facebook's Libra? Is it about money? Is it really about money? Something like that. But yeah, I'd recommend that paper. It's quite a good read, despite being about a thing that never came to pass. But it, like, the thing about the knock-on effects of UTXOs versus potentially like proof of stake solutions and stuff, I thought was really interesting.
I'd be curious how much information you'd be able to pull from, like, how much money you just have sitting idle in someone's Libra account, as it were. Like, apparently Starbucks has something like, I think the last number I saw was like $6 billion just of people having money in their Starbucks account so they can buy coffee when they want to walk through, right? So $6 billion. So they're effectively a bank at that point, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How much can you,
you're telling me there could be a points run on Starbucks that would destabilize Starbucks?
It's not points.
No,
but
well, they already have the cash. You can't get the cash back, but could there be I mean, the only thing you'd have would be a coffee run, right? You'd have a cost run, but
yeah, I suppose
that's about it.
But
you're right.
But the question is, like, what could Facebook learn from you if you have like $10 sitting in your account at any given time versus 100 versus 1,000, right? Like, hitting certain benchmarks would mean they can market some seriously different things. Because keeping $1,000 in your Facebook account kind of implies that like $1,000 doesn't mean anything to you. So we could really market, cars to them or something.
Well, presumably also and I guess this is the thing where the UTXO thing, it doesn't matter so much, and it from memory is in that paper as well. But it's also like they obviously care a lot about who you're transacting with. Like, that's one of the other key things they really, really want to know, which is really interesting.
So in India, WhatsApp itself has like payment features. So at least for like 1 billion something people, they already know who's paying whom through what. You can just in the chat request for money, and it goes directly through the app.
Yep. Same with Apple Pay and everything else.
Did
right?
Did you know if that feature existed before they bought WhatsApp?
No, so Indian financial system has this API interface called UPI. So any app can implement that, and it'll connect to your bank account. So it came out in 2017 or something. I think by then WhatsApp was already bought.
That's really, really interesting. So it wasn't even something that they were like, holy shit, this is potentially insanely valuable, like baked into WhatsApp. We can just reach 1 billion people with payments. They were like, no, we're actually going to implement them out. So is it just that the regulators in India are friendly to that use case? They were able to implement it there where they maybe don't elsewhere? Or
no, I think it goes via banks. So you need to like have a partnership with banks to use their version of UPI accounting system. I'm not super sure how it works, but I think WhatsApp did that in India because WeChat already had something like that, and they were like, "Oh, we could do something similar again," but especially when the APIs are open and anybody can build on it.
I mean, that makes sense. WeChat is absolutely, when we were in China, WeChat was just absolutely fucking everywhere. It's crazy.
Well, you're required to install it now, aren't you?
Maybe. I don't know.
My former roommate is from China, and I think the last time he went there, he they would not let him enter until he installed it on his phone.
Oh, really?
Wow.
I think it's WeChat.
Is that so customs can reach them? Or immigration, maybe?
Probably, yeah. Probably some way of just, yeah.
I just remember this. I visited in like 2018. I think it was literally at it was the same week of the People's Congress where Xi Jinping basically went, "Yeah, I'm essentially going to be here for life, lads. See you later." And literally, the internet everything was locked down. You couldn't like get on anything. And dumbly, I didn't take, well, smartly or dumbly, I didn't take a laptop because I was like, don't want to take a laptop. That seems like a really dumb idea. So I didn't have a VPN. I just had like my shitty old, like, back then I didn't really have a smartphone either. So it was just like it was like the shittest, oldest sort of smartphone.
In 2018?
Yeah, like I would just like get hand-me-down phones or things. I really wasn't that into it. Anyway, whatever. So
Right.
You're so hipster.
it was,
I know, right?
it was fucking impossible
I just
to
carried
get
around a
any
chalkboard and
information about
abacus,
it while we
man.
were there.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck your fucking phones. 2018. It's not like it was the launch of the iPhone. It was 11 years later. Hey,
Yeah,
man.
well, whatever, man.
I got my
like I wasn't spending big bucks.
I got my StarTAC and shit. I don't need that shit.
Whips his typewriter out at a coffee shop.
Look, I bought a fucking actual like expensive smartphone once, right? I got it home, knocked it off the fucking table like 2 days later, and fucking smashed on the floor and was fucked. And it was like it was like just outside of like it basically was like you got to have to pay to repair this, and then to pay to repair it was like 200 quid. And I was like, literally can't afford that. So I just have a break.
They make
Great.
those baby
Fuck this
cases.
shit.
Yeah,
I
baby
was like,
cases
I
and
just need a
bounces around
phone
everything.
to text people, like, or whatever, man. Like, this is bullshit.
I like my green bubbles, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Ben Davis in the chat. Nokia 3310 does a whole trip to China on one charge. That is the kind of tech we need. 3310, 3330, the spicy little
That's
one.
right.
I mean, you can also beat someone to death with that thing. So
You
I mean,
could.
it's multifaceted.
I had the 7110, and that was the cool one, because then that was the one they then used in the Matrix, and you were like,
I had that phone. I imported that phone actually. I used it for like 6 months or something like that.
such a great phone. And
Yeah.
then it had the button and the whole front side clipped down. And you were like, you're like, I'm a legend speaking.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
I was
think it
like
was awesome.
fucking 10 years old.
Like Neo. Yeah.
Wait, I couldn't have been 10 years old. I wouldn't have had a mobile phone. Whatever age I was, you're like, I'm cool. And you're like, literally at that age, the phone is the size of your head. You look like a fucking penis. Anyway, the point was, it was really, really hard. Like, if you needed to just like Google something or like look up like something really minor, or find a map, like you don't realize how even a fucking troglodyte like me, you don't realize how like completely dependent you are on that stuff until it's all completely blocked and you don't have any of it. You're just like, shit, it's a good thing I threw a map in with our guidebook, said my partner. Kind of thing. You're like, well, let's find out what the fuck we're gonna do, and let's like,
Well, I mean, online maps don't actually work for China, right? My understanding is like if you try and go over there, everything is completely obfuscated. Like if you scroll over to on Google Maps and like go to Hong Kong and like follow the Hong Kong bridge back to China, like roads just start like moving.
yeah, there's loads of stuff that's just totally bust. It was like less busted at some point, and it's become more busted over time because of obvious reasons. But yeah, it was a very strange time. But the thing that really stuck, so back to the fucking long rambling, but to arrive at the point,
Yes,
this was around the time when sort of that whole social capital, social credit, whatever it was, that I can't remember the exact technical name of it, things started happening like really widespread in China, or shortly after that. And it was really weird because you literally like you can be served by somebody, and literally as you're talking to them, there's like a thing in front of them where you can rate them, and it has like an actual impact on not only their work but also potentially their life outside of work. And people will literally be like at a train station buying tickets and be like unhappy while they're talking to it.
That's too much pressure for me. So like I like to
Sure.
rate things and take photos of things on like Google Maps, right? So like for the next people, they'll know if this ramen place sucks or not. Well, even for that, I have a hard time not giving like above like a 3, unless it's like really egregious. Like I'll start at 5 and like take things away. Starting with like potentially affecting their life, absolutely not. I don't want any of that pressure. I don't want that responsibility. I'm out.
But that's why there's only such a thing as a 5-star review or a 1-star review, right? Because people are just like inherently bad at actually reviewing things. Like honestly, nobody wants to be a dick, and it's like, look, okay, most stuff in life is not very good. like inherently, like you can see like the greatest fucking sunset and 9 out of 10, right? I mean, a 9 out of 10 is probably pretty strong. It's probably more like for the average person, like the best sunset you ever see in your life, right?
4.
Will probably be in the grander scheme of things like a 7 out of 10, maybe. But people will be like, "That's amazing," and you're like, I mean, yeah, it's fine, but
it's all relative though, right? Like great ramen in Beaverton is not hold on. We do have one place called Yuzu that's like, having been to Japan a couple times, it's still like it's really good. But it's all relative, right? Like I can give a 5-star place to Beaverton and not have the same expectations of a 5-star ramen place in Japan. Similarly, for basically all things.
Yeah, I mean, okay, fair enough. I will, but then everything is relative. As a get out is like, well, yes, everything is relative. Yes.
I like the idea of everything is either awesome or it sucks. Let's just get down to that. That's it. That's Cosmos governance. Either it's a yes or no with veto. Get rid of no and get rid of abstain. Either it's amazing or F you. Right? No. Okay. that's the jaded world that we live in, right? There's no fucking gray. It's all black or white and just right?
To be fair, right? I now live with a tiny human who also only has yes and no with veto as options.
That's true, he does.
And life looks simpler to me. I'm like, wait, hang on. I think the fucking tiny human has worked it out quicker than the big human.
It's amazing.
Like it should just be yes or no with veto. Like
I'm imagining that like
I've been
Jedi
fed.
meme.
I'm happy. No, I'm unhappy. And you're like, okay, this is. Does it need to be more complicated than that?
I'm imagining that like Jedi meme where it's like the beginning of the bell is like some guy with his head caved in, and he's like, there are 2 options, yes and no. And then the top of the bell, it's like 4 options, yes, no, no with veto, abstain. And then the end of the bell is the Jedi where it's just yes and no with veto.
That's it. That's all you need. Agreed. I like it.
I like that meme described verbally. We might have to make it for the Twitter later.
I did my best.
For marketing purposes. No. I got it. I was with you there the whole way. I was like, that's fucking great.
That was a Black Mirror episode, wasn't it? His birthday was, right? The one where like you can real time.
Yeah.
The social credit one?
Yeah, the social credit run, right? Like, I didn't like the interaction. You're like walking around because it was like real time, right? You could have an interaction with somebody and you should turn around and it was instantly like 1 star. Fuck you.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like the way she goes mad at the end is probably going to happen.
Yeah. Anyway, I agree.
Just the one those Black Mirror does a thing, happens in real life later, like the Prime Minister fucking a pig. That's the other one. That's the famous one in the UK, anyway.
Sunset's going down here. Fucking 0 stars.
0 stars.
It's fucking garbage.
Fucking dog shit.
Fucking no veto on the sunset.
No veto the sunset. Exactly. I think you know what we should just get. We should. I know we haven't even fucking got the Your Pup Chill Down t-shirt sorted yet, but we should do we have great merch ideas we never do, but we should just get a t-shirt that just says yes on the front and no with veto on the back. That'd be fucking great. I would 100% wear that to a Cosmos conference. I think that'd be really funny. I thought about literally go and make that now.
I want a T-shirt that just says "No with veto." That's all I want. I don't even want the yes. I just want "No with veto" on it, and just fucking just "No with veto" and just walk in with it. And
to be fair, "No with veto" the Game of Nodes font. I would wear that.
That's it, right? That's actually you don't even. Yeah, that's that I like that one. Just "No with veto." That's it. Let's do it.
Actually, for the Cosmos proposal for Grace, there was some validator who did a weighted vote between yes and no with veto. And I was like, what's your reasoning there? It's halfway split between yes and no with veto.
They did a weighted vote? How do you do that?
There are quite a few validators who do that nowadays.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you do that? I didn't know you can do that.
You know the universe brain meme? It's like, the small brain is like yes, and then the slightly bigger brain is like no, and then the bigger brain is like no with veto, and then the galaxy brain, enlightenment brain, is going like half yes, half no with veto. That's the meme you just described, Spoo. I think possibly they've just ascended, and who are we? We're not equipped to understand their resonance with the fine fabric of the universe. Like,
I mean, I've just started doing 4-way split between yes, no, no with veto for every proposal.
Everything.
Wait, hang on. You're right. There's another level that you can ascend further.
You can piss everybody off on Twitter at the same time. That's really what I want in governance is how do I make everyone angry?
That's actually
that's it, right? You vote all four. How do you do that?
Just vote everything as a 4-way.
I want to know. You got to show me how to do that. I want to do that. That's perfect Cosmos governance.
This is what we can use noise for. We can randomize our 4-way split.
Oh, so you vote all four and you let noise pick out the percentages.
You let noise decide which one.
Oh,
I actually kind of want to write that smart
We're
contract.
fucking getting somewhere now in this podcast. This
That
is now we're
sounds like
getting
the
somewhere.
most interesting idea.
Combined with the drill
anyone's had in
tweet.
a while.
Combined with the drill tweet on each one of those.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what the fuck is going on?
Right, so we need to build a drill oracle to get the tweets.
Yeah, drill oracle to get the tweet. This might be a chain, right? We're kind of approaching chains.
Yeah, we just launch the actual shit chain, complete piece of shit chain.
That all it does is vote all four votes with random drill tweets on random percentages based on noise. And also you win merch.
Hey, Ben, I absolutely resent that.
What did Ben say?
You guys ship merch like Pupmo ships DAP. That is not true. Usurper actually got stickers. So that there is shipping some merch. Just because you didn't get it doesn't mean it didn't happen.
And I have one of those stickers. I know they exist. It's
Ben, email the show. Give us an address. Send some shit.
So a weird thing happened, right? Which was that a small child saw the shiny sticker on my laptop and noticed that I had some more in my notepad because I have like conference stickers and stuff just in my notepad in the back, and they'd kind of spilled out. I was just like kind of doing my thing, and my notepad was there, and they were just like, "Do you have more of those stickers?" And I was like, "Yes, I do."
What are you talking about? Small child? What was that?
It was, the shiny "we're going to jail" sticker.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And essentially, the small child asked me for one, and I was like, "Here you go."
Oh, I got you. Okay. I thought you were talking about your small child. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, is this kid asking for stickers? How advanced is this fucking kid?
Another small human.
Okay, all right.
We're just like, wow, it's a dog. That's really exciting. And I was like,
what kind of description is that? A small child. Yeah, of course they can have one. Yeah.
Sure, why not? You knock yourself out, little buddy.
Yeah.
Did anybody else see the Barney? There's a big old Barney in the Juno Telegram, where I think Pupmos has got thrown out of Chihuahua, like socials or something like that for
what?
I don't know, non-delivery of I don't really know. I haven't followed this drama. I'm all vaguely aware that has happened, and then there was just like it all got very knives out, like in the channels that they were still in, kind of thing, and like. Rama was going like full Australian, fighting around the world, and it was pretty much it was the equivalent of come over here, take your shirt off, and let's go fight outside in the dusty street. You know, it was full Waking Fright invitation to
I'll
to
meet
fight.
you in the churchyard parking lot kind of thing.
It was like South Park level of kind of dumb. But like, to be fair, it was very funny, and Rama Rama was great. But yeah, that's the only real drama I've seen this week was Potmos getting called out on not shipping stuff, and then getting really pissed off at Rama, and Rama was all like, yeah, if you're gonna bark Potmos, make sure you can bite.
Jeez, getting rough in the bear.
I know. It was great.
Nerds fighting over shit coins. It's fucking bad. It's fucking bad.
Intense
Fucking
fighting over shit coins.
Just-
Yeah.
Oh man.
So, but also, you know, we had the that. Can we just recognize? I had the what's it called? Fucking cap last week. Merch.
Yeah,
Got hoodies this week.
I know. I like
The
it.
merch game is only accelerating. You know, so clearly, individual people on this podcast can arrange and sort out merch. Dad's not wearing his
I didn't wear a hat this week because I got so
That was-
fucking railed last week about wearing a hat all the time.
I was
you were-
going to say, were you wearing it literally before?
I was in the garage. I was
well?
making shelves for something, and I'm out there in like a shirt with my hat on, and Null's calling me out. And I'm like, "Fuck, got this thing on."
Literally got the hat on.
He's in the fucking house wearing a hat. Yeah, I don't even know you have to wear it outside. Yeah, Jesus.
Yep.
Can't even hear about
He's
defend
gone.
myself. We kicked him off the podcast because of it too.
Did America just get nuked?
Why? What happened?
What?
Oh,
Video flash?
both the Americans froze.
Oh, it could be.
I
It's
was
possible.
Like, was that the EMP of
It could be. Yeah, it might be on its way here. I don't know.
Although I guess you'd find out. Well, anyway, whatever. You have an emergency broadcast system. Anyway, so
We do.
Whoa,
56
hold on. I have a moment about that. So, my wife is from West Mifflin, right? They have reused
where's
their
that?
World War II.
Outside of Pittsburgh.
okay.
They have reused their World War II like air raid sirens as like a 10 o'clock curfew siren. So
Are you sure it's a curfew sign?
it is
Yeah?
a curfew siren, yes.
No shit.
It happens at 10 o'clock every night.
Do you know where your kids are?
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we were
They
there like a
have
year
curfew?
ago.
That's a
I don't know
bit
if it's like mandated curfew, but regardless, it's an air raid siren. And I went to bed early one time because I was like, I don't know, jet lagged or something, like 9. And then I got woken up by an air raid siren thinking like war was happening or something. I didn't realize because it was my first time there. I about had a
I'd
panic
be-
attack.
pure raging. I'll be pure raging. Sorry. I just need to continue the merch shilling.
Oh yeah. Here we go.
Right.
Part 2.
Part 2.
I do like that shirt. The shirt's cool.
It's great. Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
good shit. It's a
It
good
It
shit.
kind
I
of
like
reminds
shit.
me of the robot from the anime Fooly Cooly. And I mean that in the best way.
I'll have to
It's-
dig that up.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of different things are going on there, but obviously kick-ass designer. Same designer that did the Howl stuff. So
It almost looks like he's holding on to your nipples. If you stand up like there, it's just like he's just holding them up. Just
well, I hadn't noticed that, and now I'm
Now you'll never unsee it.
Wear this t-shirt again. Thank
It's-
you, sir. But it's a great t-shirt. Was R.I.P. a great t-shirt.
it's just kind of it's like the bro. Sorry,
Cool.
I didn't mean to ruin the merch.
So, okay, we actually have another viewer question as well, which I want to get onto, but I'm very conscious now that it is 58 minutes in, and we have not asked about the Cosmos Ladies, which we obviously should have done on
Yeah.
International Women's Day, but we are now here. So we've already fucking ran around the houses about any number of different things. So, Spoo, do you want to tell us a little bit about Cosmos Ladies?
Yes, please.
You're on mute.
Well, the reason I asked Null if I could be there on that day was actually just a coincidence because the very next day we were organizing like a Women in Cosmos online streaming event. And we actually had the CMO of Babylon who talked about Babylon for like 30 minutes. So you could go check that out. And yeah, so we had a bunch of people, all the Women in Cosmos developers and founders and NFT artists. We had Kate Stills, who built the smart contracting platform on Agoric. We also had Dora Palfi, who does like teaching young girls how to program in Python using like really cute programmable accessories for like programmable phone cases and things like that.
Cool.
And yeah, so I mean, I wanted to come to promote that, but the link is still in the YouTube, so you can go check that out. But overall, I started this thing about 1.5 years ago because at Tendermint I was kind of part of the recruitment pipeline, and I had access to like all the applications, and I saw like there were no women applying for the engineering roles, and I was like, if nobody's applying, how can they ever get in? So we do some like kind of mentorship programs one-on-one for like women who want to migrate from Web 2 to Web 3, or even if there's just like front-end developers, how do you deal with stuff like wallets and yeah, stuff like that. And we run the validator because all the revenue from the validator goes back to fund these things. Like we did a giveaway at the event where we gave away 3 programmable accessories to attendees who had young daughters or nieces. So yeah, we use it to fund things like that. So I think that's about it. I was not super prepared.
So I've got a follow-up question. Once upon a time, I worked on a team like in a department where it was nearly 50-50 male-female split in engineering, and it required a huge amount of work from a couple of the people who were kind of leading the department, who really did care about that a lot, and it took so much effort to kind of get to that point. But I'm like, I obviously only really kind of know what the recruiting market was like in that one particular thing, which was like, you know, developers for a corporate type situation. But I remember that pipeline to find there were lots of challenges with trying to like have a actually sort of evenly balanced sort of recruitment pipeline. What do you think are the challenges that are kind of like mainly stopping sort of more diverse people getting into that pipeline, like from what you've seen? Like what were the things? Because you said it was like you weren't even seeing the applications in the first place.
Yeah, so I think specifically when it comes to Web3, a lot of it has to do with historical reasons. Like a lot of people came because of like libertarian values, and those things are usually male community focused stuff. You don't see a lot of women in those fields. And also a lot of the time, like the absolute forefront of technology stuff, even in AI, it's just, I think there's a big lag behind, because there's a lag behind in like the traditional tech industry as well, because it takes a while to learn the basic tech stuff and to move on, and you got to do that step by step. And yeah, I don't think there's like an easy answer yet. I think it has to kind of start at like a younger age. And I remember like there was a panel like this talking about this online, and somebody said, "Oh, it's just because guys are more into computers and stuff." And that never made any sense to me. Like I got into programming because I was a big fan of Hannah Montana, and I wanted to make a fan site for her. And that's like one of the girliest ways you can get into programming, and that's how I learned JavaScript and PHP. So I think this is just a path which needs to be shown, and that's why I was like a big fan of giving away those kind of programmable accessories, because hey, you want to make something really cute and you want to accessorize yourself, and there's like cool tech stuff you can do with that. You can't do programmable accessories outside of learning programming, right?
Yeah, no, I can weigh in on this a little bit. One, it's historically not true that it's like males are more interested in it. It used to be that until the 70s that it was largely women that did software, which is really interesting.
Have you seen the film Hidden Figures?
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Because
where it was basically
the transition from people who did mathematics, like the computers, and then when they had computers that did software, they were like, well, the women who do the maths will probably be good at the computers, and so, and then I mean the lady, the Apollo 11 guidance computer runtime.
Yeah,
was written
Margaret
by
Hamilton with like the picture with all these pages of code.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there was a picture of that somewhere in an office I worked in, and I was just like, that's a lot of code.
Yeah, I mean, the original software engineer, I don't know if really could be called a software engineer, was Ada Lovelace, which is, of course, was a woman. But no, I used to volunteer to teach like 3rd to 5th graders basic software, and almost universally it was like half boy, half girl, right? So like at a young enough age, there is no distinction. It's like when our culture starts getting involved, that's when the distinction starts to pop up, because I guess you as a woman shouldn't be interested in tech kind of thing. And it's really interesting problem to try and overcome.
Yeah, just a personal story here too. My last business before this, we were in mobile space, and we had a development center, and we had about there was probably about 50 developers in that area. It was about 35% women and about 60% men, which is a big percentage actually, I think, compared to like others. And we were just hiring the best people we could. Didn't matter, right? We didn't care. We were just trying to hire the best people we could. But one thing that we heard was that like that sometimes female candidates were drawn to us because of the culture of having that balance. And sometimes it's difficult for other organizations to grow a female component of developers because the culture is so fucked and nobody wants to work there. And so I think that also impacts it too, because like if sometimes those percentages are too low, it turns into, what was that? Is it in there's a good portrayal of that in the Uber story. Did you guys watch that Uber movie or whatever the hell it was? There was a really good portrayal of women in tech in that Uber story too, as well, because the culture was so freaking backwards. And I think that happens, and that creates basically barriers, right? It's stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, at least what I saw was that it was very chicken and egg, and you had to kind of have the culture just because I guess mainstream tech culture was so off-putting and toxic that people had to already trust that that there would be a place for them to land before they would put in their application, was kind of generally what we saw.
Right.
That was my very high level takeaway. But on the whole, I guess like yeah, I mean, it's so difficult how you build that culture. Like that's the thing, because my experience working on a team like that was that generally speaking, I would say the people who identified as female were better programmers. If I had to just like say like pick a random developer by gender identity, I would, if I had to assemble a team, I would have always picked the women or the people who identified as female, because yeah, I don't know, like, but then the thing is, maybe this because it's the number and the funnel is so much smaller that the people who do get into it are more passionate, are just more on the whole, they're kind of a very selective bunch. Like, you know, when you have like entrepreneurs or immigrants as the other example, where you have a higher incidence of entrepreneurs among immigrants on the whole, because you already have people who are sort of motivated to up sticks and go somewhere. Maybe there's some kind of variation of that where you're like smart women who are prepared to put up with all the shit. You've got to really like it. You've got to be good. I don't know. I mean, like, well, I mean, Spoo, what do you think? Can't believe I'm just like fucking theorizing. You're literally a woman in tech. What do you think? I'm a fucking idiot. I can't believe I just I can't believe I just literally mansplained that. I'm so sorry.
I mean, it's good that you're interested, and it's good that everybody needs to have an opinion in this. It's not just like one sector matters. But I mean, there is a lot of discrimination when it comes to hiring as well, because in India, this was a thing where if a woman who's like recently married would apply, they would not hire her because she might soon go for maternity leave, and you don't want to hire an employee who goes away for 6 months. And yeah, and one of the most shocking things that I experienced was in Indian engineering universities, like almost 75% of the students are women. But then when you enter the workforce, the number just goes super down. Like in my class, we had like in my batch in bachelor's, we had about 70 students, out of which like almost 49 were girls. And then I enter like a company, and now it's just like 30 people, out of which only 2 are women.
Yeah.
And I think there is certainly a degree of like, okay, women are caregivers, so once you do have a child, they're more likely to be the one staying back at home, and it might be harder to get back into the industry as well after that, especially when their peers have been progressing and have been building up work experience over time as well. So there is some degree of like, you need to be mindful, and you might need to like intentionally hire somebody just to get the ball rolling. But I think we're not really there yet. I think there are enough talented female developers and stuff, so I don't think there's that much need for affirmative action, at least in like Western nations at least.
That well, the thing that's really interesting there, like obviously I didn't do engineering formally at university, but my impression, at least from people that did, was that numbers are much more skewed here than what you've just described there. So I mean, I guess it kind of, to say something very obvious, I guess it's going to be different in different reasons and different factors in different places, right? So it sounds like, at least in from your experience there, like the funnel itself was, there's a lot of people at the start who obviously are passionate about the thing enough to do it, but it's somehow not translating into the into people actually in industry, which is really, that's quite strange.
Yeah, so there is still, I think up until my generation, at least, it was really quite common that women would enter the workforce. And once they have kids, they would just quit their jobs and not re-enter the workforce. So there's definitely a degree of, if somebody is over 40, then you can't really expect women to be working who are over 40, because in their generation, it just was not a thing. Unless you were like financially struggling, it would be considered offensive. Like, oh, does your husband not earn enough that you have to work? Like,
Yeah.
like that was the societal attitude. But in modern day as well, like I think there are still some people who kind of just continue on with that. Like one of my best friends in college, she was like, oh, I'm just getting a good degree so I can like meet a smart guy here so I can just get married. Like she attended engineering just for that reason. But I don't know why I got sidetracked, but anyway. So I think one of the main reasons we have a lot of women in engineering in India is because engineering is not something you go into with passion. It's something you go into because it's a very easy way to get high paying jobs. And that doesn't really care about what your childhood or interests were. And because of that, once you start making enough amount of money, or maybe you're financially stable enough, there might not be enough incentive to further up in the career field. Like there are these kinds of companies like TCS and Infosys and stuff, which are like mass recruiters, and I think they have better gender employee ratio than like niche companies.
So would you say that women in India, when they're younger, like in middle school, I guess, they have less interest in computing, and then they choose engineering as like the practical option? Is that what you're saying?
I think in general, like even when I was in high school, it was really very rare for an Indian family to have a computer at home. So again, it does not come about interest, because I think even the guys who were in engineering, very few of them were there because of their interests. Even they were there. Like many of the people who were in my class were there because they couldn't get into med school. They're like, that was my priority, but I guess engineering pays well, so I'll come and do this instead. So I think that's the attitude in like that entire generation. Like so many people, because of the tech industry boom which happened in India, it was like, just do 4 years of good education, get good grades, you're kind of set for life.
I mean, it sounds like it was a smart choice then, honestly.
I guess I don't know what's it would be quite, we need to get Simon or somebody on here, like, to find out what it's like in Germany. Do we know anybody in France? Because there's obviously a really different traditionally, at least I don't know what it's like in the US, but in the UK, obviously there's a heavy privilege on the humanities over the STEM subjects, and it's as a result of, you guessed it, it's the aristocracy, our friends screwing up everything.
It's your favorite thing.
Well, it's why they built the polytechnics, wasn't it? Because they were like, we are literally lagging behind in all of the practical fields. So we need to literally build a separate class of university that doesn't just go, the only important thing in life is the classics. And then after a while, it just became the case that the polytechnics were looked down upon. And then eventually they just got subsumed into the university system because people were like, well, I don't want to go to a polytechnic. And it was just like, well, the purpose of the entire thing has been defeated, but actually the polytechnics were a really good idea. Whereas like in Germany and other places, you have like you have like respect for practical applied subjects, and that pays dividends, it turns out. So
Well, in Germany, they also have what do they have? They're like apprenticeships, right? In lieu of college, if you want to. Does the UK have anything like that? Like
but there is sort of something like that, but it for a lot of subjects it's very half-assed. You do see it with trades, though. That is the one place where apprenticeship is kind of alive and well. If you get an electrician round who's half decent, there'll probably be a spotty 15-year-old, 16-year-old mandatory education until 16. Yeah, so 16 or 17-year-old in baggy electrician's pants handing them their tools. So but like things like like engineering, civil engineering, like much less so, which is back in the day mechanical engineering was an applied apprenticeship type. Yeah, anyway, I'm looking at this is I wish we had gotten to the subject earlier because this is like really, really interesting. But I'm also looking at the clock and I'm aware that a rugging has to come at some point. So we had a viewer question from the other week, which was specifically addressed to wanting Dad's opinion on this. But also I think well, I could be wrong, but Spoo might have an opinion on this as a developer as well. We're very developer heavy this week, which is good because the question was about development, which was essentially we're in the context of work, but also more specifically development, software engineering. Should you ever work for free? And I was like, that's kind of a big question. I thought that was it was interesting enough. I think it was basically asked mainly at sort of me and it was asked to me to ask to you.
What was the context? Is there a context around a specific like project or timeline or what? Was there anything specific or just in general?
So I think the context was from a business perspective, right?
Yes, I think the context is like both kind of on an individual level. Let's say you're maybe early on in your career, but also, I think if you're working on your own and you're maybe not, if you're not trying to get a job, right, with a traditional corporate or something like that, you are kind of inherently sort of a freelancer or a business. The roles are muddied, right? So there's a business aspect to your decision making that isn't just about trying to get a job. So I think that's the context for like, should you ever work for free if your client is Microsoft? Obviously fucking not. I think that's the context. But if you're essentially a freelancer, depending on your client or whatever, the context can be more muddy, right? So I think that's the context which Schultzy is getting at there. Is like there's a business component to this as well. Like should you ever work for free? If so, why? Like, does that change? What are the sliders?
I don't know. I'm a Cosmos validator, so not really if I'm the right person to answer this because we're doing a lot for free right now, or maybe for negative. All right, so I'll try to answer it without context of knowing kind of where this comes. Besides that, my dead answer would be that nothing is ever for free, and your time is actually worth something. Your time when you're young is worth almost nothing, and as you get older, each hour that you spend is worth more. And so as you get into your 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s, that time becomes much and much and much more valuable. It's not linear, it's exponential. So your time at 10 years old, like kids can blow time at doing anything, but at 40, those hours are worth something. And so I wouldn't think of it as working for free. I would think of it as if you give yourself an hourly rate which sounds weird to say, but you kind of have an hourly rate. And your hourly rate in your head it'll change over the course of your timeline, like I just said. And that hourly rate, you're even though you're not billing it, you're investing it. So if the question is, should I do work for free? The answer to that should be that you should figure out what that time is worth and say, instead of saying, should I do work for free? Should I invoke 10 hours at $120 an hour? Should I invoke $1,200 of my money towards this thing? And will this repay me later at either $1,200 or more? And if the answer is yes, then yeah, you can work for free. If the answer is no, then you should think about where you're spending your time and how you're doing that. So like I said, early on, your time might be worth nothing, which means if you're working for free, I'm investing $10 for 10 hours. Who gives a shit? If you're later, if you have kids at home, or if you have a wife, or if you have a relationship, that time instantly goes up, because if you're spending it doing something else, you're not spending it with a loved one. That might not seem like a lot, but you are taking hours away from someone else who wants to spend time with you, right? And so that has a cost to it, even though you don't want to think of it that way. It's weird to think about, but you kind of get a little bit in your mind. And so as you get older, and as you're spending time on one thing to not work on something else, I think the idea is that instead of saying, should I work for free, should I invest in this thing? And how much am I willing to invest? That's a good way of thinking about it. And sometimes and also not everything has the same amount of risk reward. Some things you might say, I'm going to invest a little bit because there's something coming down the road. Like I might go work for a startup that has a lower salary that I want. So I'm not working for free, but I'm working for less. So I think I'm leaving I'm leaving $20,000 a year on the table, but I think that over the course of 3 years, it's going to have a much greater return. So therefore I'm going to put this 20 grand on the side because I think it's going to be worth $500,000 when this company sells. That's a decision. Like you can make that decision, and people at different point in their life, instead of 20 grand, it might be 200 grand or $2 million. And I want to think, am I putting this on the side to go do something else that's going to have a higher return? So I think you have to, that's my dad answer to this, but I think you have to kind of rethink that question and put it in context of where you want to spend time and what's important to you at what different points in your life. And it's a bet. Like if you're putting time towards something that might not return something, I think you really have to rethink to say, is this worth my freaking time? And can I make money elsewhere?
So yeah, that risk element is the interesting one. So do you think there's also something like, let's say you're towards the start of your career, which is a very common time when people sort of, work for exposure or whatever.
Right.
Like I built a lot of websites for people for free when I was first starting out. Spoo did free work for Hannah Montana, which presumably Hannah Montana never even knew about. But so I guess it's a little bit different if you're 16 and you're knocking out a website in your free time. Fine,
exactly. Yeah.
But if you're like, so let's say you're like, I don't know, 22, you've got bills to pay, and now you're making the risk reward of, should I work for free? Again, you're at the beginning of a new career. Maybe you've changed careers, something like that. But you're shouldering a lot more risk, aren't you? Because you've got bills to pay, but you're potentially working for free.
Well, I don't know if you're shouldering more risk. Your bills go up as you get older. So it depends on like your burn. I always say, your burn rate goes way up, right? Like your burn rate at my age, at 22, I'd be like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, it's a weird number because like you have kids and there's things that come up, right? You have responsibilities. And so that burn goes up. And so that's usually why it's why you risk at a young age, is because when you get older, that risk tolerance goes way down, way, 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 way down. At young, you can make fucking mistakes. Who gives a shit? Like same thing. Like we did the same thing. So it doesn't matter. You don't have much money, but again, you could survive on much less, and your tolerance for risk goes way up. When you get older, that risk tolerance goes way down, which is why you don't see a tremendous number of startups like 50 or 60-year-olds. Like that doesn't necessarily happen. It's a lot of work, and you don't see a ton, right? It's much more with as you're younger and you have energy for it. So
I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that the average age of, or like the median age of a successful exit startup founder was something like not super old, but not super young either. It was like
probably early 30s,
38, 40.
Yeah, that sounds right.
But that's still like Well, I guess it's still, yeah, you always said
You have enough
maybe
cash to
do
get
that
it
age of
going. You have enough
50,
experience
yeah.
to start something, right? You have all these things are right, and then you want to get out of it like if you can get out of it, if you can get out of a business in your early 30s or something like that and have an exit, that's good stuff, man. That's amazing.
So I think they were at 38 or whatever when they founded.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
it's
it's like,
still that's. I mean, the other thing is like you have individuals who have worked in a career for so long that they understand the business well enough, and they say this is stupid. We should be doing this on our own, right? And so like that also makes sense too, where you're like, I understand, I see the market, I see a fit, I know how to run this better, right? You have that experience to be able to do it. That might be more traditional, where in Web3, I think, I don't know if is this right? I don't know if it's the first time I had this thought, but I would think the barriers to start something are lower here. But I could be wrong about that. I don't know if that's I don't know if that's a good statement. It seems like the barriers are lower. Like you have a lot more infrastructure and it's very much more focused, and you have a lot more. Maybe I don't know if that's right or not. I got to think about that
you
a
can
little bit
definitely
more.
put out something that's a lot less finished, like an MVP, because
Yeah, maybe the expectations are lower. I don't know if that's right at all.
I think the space is so new, the expectations are low. Like the fact that you can develop something on your own and
Yeah,
just knock it out in Web3, that's like we'll be going back 15 years maybe in Web2 to get to the
yeah,
point where you could prototype an idea on your own
yeah.
and viably get something out the
Yeah,
door.
the other thing, like in traditional, like your faces on the website, you have a set of you have references, you have partnerships you have these other types of things. Web3, fucking you're a AI generated rhino on a Twitter website, right? Like there's that anonymity piece comes forward where we don't have it here, but that anonymity piece, and like nobody knows who you are, your age, or anything else. It kind of takes all that bullshit out of it, right? So I think that lowers the barriers as well. Where if you're trying to start, like, I don't know, I'm trying to start whatever, I'm trying to start something that's hand to hand where I'm going out. And if you're young, I think you get judged as young. Web3, I think you get a little bit, and even Web2 to a point, you get a little bit of a reprieve on that, where it doesn't matter, right? Like it's just more about the skill set, which is nice. I don't know if that's true or not. I got to think about that a little bit more, but maybe that's a little bit the case. But anyway, that would be my answer for work. I think that I have no. I think in everybody's career, you make decisions on where you're going to invest on risks, right? Like you guys, this is a podcast of entrepreneurs, right? We have this podcast tagged, asked around, like, how do you tag this? And I put entrepreneurship was the main tag. I don't know if I ever said this, but this is it comes up with under entrepreneurship because this is an entrepreneur type of thing, and you have to have the right kind of group around that. And early on, even now, we're all investing. I think today, like as Stargaze validators, we're investing. There's no doubt about that, right, Smarty? So, and like even on other exchanges in the Cosmos and those types of things, you're investing, right? And so whether that's in dollars and infrastructure or that's in your time, because you spend a shitload of time. Again, I'm not in here because I want to lose money, because we have a viewpoint that's very long term, and we think that's going to pay off. That's it, right?
I want to add one thing here. That risk equation changes a little bit when you're currently working. So in software, it's very common to be asked during an interview to do like a 20-hour project while you're currently working full time.
Sure.
The risk equation of burning out when you're doing those every week, going from working 40 hours to now 60 hours, because now I'm working on one of these projects for an interview, that's way riskier, and that's to be weighed completely differently when you're talking about free work, because most of those projects are free work.
So fun fact about one of those, I once did one, and I was obviously doing it around my day job, and I was very, very tired. It was about 2 a.m, and I realized like the solution, the most elegant solution was a painter's fill, and I couldn't be bothered to code that algorithm. And they'd said, you've got 5 hours to do it. Like you should do this in 5 hours. And I was like, I got to 4 hours and I was like, well, I'm not going to have time in the time available. I can't even type that fast to code the full painter's fill. So I'm just going to do the slightly less efficient one, but I can get it done in the time. And I left a code comment to this effect. And then this essentially a multi-method entry point for how the code was going to work. And above it, I left a comment saying, here be dragons. This is where the magic happens. Here be dragons. And they were like, fair enough. We read the code comment saying you didn't have time to do painter's fill. That would have been the correct solution. You probably should have spent more time on it to code that up. And I was like, well, I followed the instructions. And then they were like, but we're not going to take you forward because of your unprofessional code comments. And I was just like, well, it sounds like I don't want to fucking work here anymore.
Exactly. This,
Fucking
this
fucking
interview
jerks.
is both ways, people.
Yeah, well, that's something I was going to throw out there, was that for me, it's kind of a litmus test where if a company asks you to put down, 16 hours or whatever for a project,
Yeah.
that for free, that means it's a company I outright do not want to work for.
We used to do this too. We used to do I forget what we should call it, like a tech up or something like that. But we used to do the same thing. We wouldn't do 16 hours, but we would put people through a pace of 4 to 6. And honestly, the reason we did that, Schultz, was because there was so many applicants and we recruited really hard. If people would spend the time, we knew they were serious. That's it. And maybe we probably lost some people in there too, but it goes both ways. Like there might be a